You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello, and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Lisa Orban, author of I'd Rather Starve Than Cook, a cookbook for people who hate to cook. Lisa's first book was published in 2015, and she decided to self-publish it and eventually started Indies United Publishing House, where independent writers are welcomed and encouraged in a community of like-minded authors. Welcome, Lisa. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Well, Lisa, I love the title of your book, I'd Rather Starve Than Cook. As a matter of fact, we were talking to our college-aged kids, and they both were like, that is a book for us. So you must have a lot of people who can relate to your book.
Oh, it is. This is a true story. I really do hate to cook, all right? I would rather starve than cook. My stove blew up 4 years ago, and I haven't replaced it.
Oh.
All right. It wasn't my cooking. It was a mouse in there. Okay. It wasn't me cooking. But you have to cook. You know, you don't have a choice, especially when you have kids like I did. And I had 5 of them, and DCFS says you have to feed them or it's neglect. And there's only so much pizza you can feed them.
Yeah.
And so over the years, over about a little over 30 years of being a parent, raising all my kids, I came up with all of these recipes. And, there is there are a lot of people out there that are like me. And it's not even if you hate to cook, if you don't have a lot of time, if you're busy, and we're all busy. Mm-hmm. So all of these recipes, they're quick, they're fast, they're easy. Kids love them. I know this because my kids did. And so, it's really nice for people because it gives them a lot of options. I think there's like 170 recipes, I think, are in there. And so, we have, several months worth of recipes for you.
Great.
It sounds like a tough market to jump into, a cookbook.
I told everybody, because I do hate to cook, I said, this is going to be it. I said, I've written all these other books. I said, but it's going to be this stupid cookbook that's going to be the thing. And so far it has been.
Wow.
People, and again, I think it resonates. We all have to cook. We all have to eat. Mm-hmm. So, it has a universal appeal to it. And because, especially with kids, they can be very particular. They can be very picky. So this cookbook is really set up for busy parents and college students and people on a real tight budget, because most of these meals are probably less than $5 to make.
Wow, great.
$5-6, depending on the quantities of it that you're making, I guess I should say.
So tell us about, you have these recipes, but then you decided to organize them in a different way than regular cookbooks. Can you tell us a little bit about your thought process? Well,
all the cookbooks that I've ever seen, they're like, oh, here's your appetizers and here's your side dishes and here's your main courses and here's this. And, that's okay. But I organize my cookbook on ways to cook. So mine's organized with, things you can make in the oven and on the stove and, in a crock pot. If you're limited on time, it makes it just a little bit easier to find these things. And I do have a section there for side dishes, but most of this 90% of those side dishes can also be turned into main courses. So, with just a couple additions. But yeah, a lot of people like how that's arranged because it can make it easier for you to determine what you want to cook. You're like, oh, I'm looking for something for the crock pot.
Sure. Yeah, I like that idea. It sounds like a nice idea.
And then,
so you can just kind of flip through it and find what you want.
When you were writing the book, did you try out each recipe again and actually measure it out? Because I know that, like sometimes when I'm cooking, it's like, a little bit of salt and let's try some paprika. Did you measure?
Did you hear the part I don't like to cook? No. Okay. All my kids are grown up now. So the people that live in my house, if I cook, this is like a big deal. People celebrate if I cook at this point in my life. I officially haven't cooked anything since
the mouse.
Christmas.
Oh.
Christmas. No, I made Easter. I did make an Easter dinner. Okay. So yeah, holidays. You can count on me for holiday food at this point. That's about it.
Well, what was the process of writing the book?
Well, it actually happened by accident. Most of these recipes you're not going to find in a cookbook because I made them up. And because I'm lazy. And most recipe books have way too many ingredients. I'm looking at something, if it says 12 ingredients, oh no, I'm out. And so they're modified recipes, I guess I should say, from a lot of, traditional ones. But anyway, my kids started calling me up going, hey, Mom, how do you make this? Hey, Mom, how do you make that? Hey, Mom, and so I would get these phone calls at least like once a week or so. So I thought, as a neat Christmas gift, I'll just write all of them down and give them to my kids as a Christmas gift. And I got them all written, and I had them printed up, at like Staples, I think it was, and put it on a little spiral binding for them. Anyway, so I'm looking through it, and I'm looking through it, I'm like, oh my God, I have an actual cookbook here, like a real one. I've already done all the basic work for it. So yeah, after that Christmas, I just sat down and I kind of spruced it up for people, not my kids, and added some stories. At the beginning of every chapter, there's a story for people to make them feel better about their own cooking. Like the time I blew up a fish, and I was a bad day in my house, and and things like that. So people can they don't feel bad if wherever they're starting at this cooking, and I even tell them at the very beginning that the cooking is not a science; it's an art. Whenever you open up any cookbook, it doesn't matter who wrote it. When they tell you need this much salt and you need this much this, and a lot of times it's not really necessary. It's based on that particular person's taste. So
yep.
So I give all of my readers this permission to experiment and say, and even tell them throughout the book, you don't really need this, or you can take this out, or you can replace it with this, or you can try something else, and really give them a chance to explore their own creativity and even their own taste, so they can create these meals that appeal to them. And if you get the paperback, there's even places at the bottom of the book where you can make notes. So if you change something or you added something, you can jot it right down. There's a space for it. And in the back of the book, there's even places for you to put new recipes in if you find something new that you like.
Sounds great.
So,
you're also building confidence, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Also. So great.
Well, Lisa, what about the artwork within the book? Where did that come from?
Me being silly and making stick figures. So this is really, high up there art. It's stick figures and they're silly. I have one that it has a little stick figure that's standing in front of a pot on the stove that's got black smoke rolling out of it. And I had someone ask me if they were burning dinner or summoning a demon, and I said, "Is there any difference?"
So it sounds like it was a lot of fun to put this book together.
It was. I had it was, this wasn't a serious thing for me. This was I had a lot of fun with it. I did a lot of fun things with it, and because I wanted people when they read through it to get that, as much as I hate cooking, it doesn't mean that it can't be enjoyable, because I'm giving it to you in these little bite-sized pieces where you can have dinner in some cases on the from start to finish it on the table in 15 minutes.
It's great.
Yeah, we all need that.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, where's a good place for people to find your book?
It is actually available everywhere. It is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, Kobo. So if you Google I'd Rather Starve Than Cook, you're pretty much going to find it everywhere. And it's available on Kindle format, ebook, paperback, and I do believe it's in hardcover as well now, if you want it in hardcover.
How did you get it in all those places?
A lot of diligence. Really, if you know how to publish things, 4 sites. You publish to Amazon, Smashwords, Ingram, Spark, and on Drafted Digital.
Mm-hmm.
And that will cover basically every market worldwide between those 4. If you do it correctly.
Oh, there we go. So what's the correct way of doing it?
Well, if you come to my publishing company, I have a packet that will walk you through it step by step.
Okay, and that leads straight into
Right.
it. So
right. So, well, that's great. So tell us about Indies United Publishing House.
about a year and a half ago, I started making comments to fellow authors and stuff that, that the publishing world is very predatory. And it's very hard to get into traditional publishing houses. As a matter of fact, when I was trying to publish my first book and trying to go the traditional route, I got very beautifully written rejection letters, hundreds of them. And they all basically said the same thing. You have a wonderful book. It's, everyone in the office enjoyed it. We passed it around. We all read it. It was great. Thank you for submitting it. Oh, we can't do it at this time.
Even though they all love it.
Yeah, everyone loved it, but they didn't feel the market was right for it. And, the market, the book market, I guess you can kind of look at it like the TV market. You'll suddenly see like a rash of cop shows. You'll see a rash of, spy shows. And they tend to go in these cycles. And whether or not that's what people really want, that's what they give the people, and they give them a lot of it. And book publishers do the same thing. They have these cycles. Now, if you're a big author, if you're a Stephen King, you're a J.K. Rowling, you could probably publish your grocery list and they take it.
Yes.
But if you are not Stephen King, if you are not, Anne Rice, you're actually going to have to work really, really hard. But the rejection is astronomically high. There's only so many slots that they have open every year for new authors. And, your odds, you have a better odds of winning the lottery than you do of getting your book into most publishing houses. Wow. So that leaves authors with, just a handful of choices. They can self-publish, they can put their book on a shelf, or they fall prey to vanity press or printers. And I'm like, there has to be a better option. There has to be something there somewhere in the middle. So that's what I did. I created a different option for people. We're a co-op as opposed to a traditional house, because we don't take any of our authors' royalties. They maintain complete control over their content and their distribution channels. All that we lay claim to is the ISBNs that we assign to them that are under our imprint. And we give them marketing and promotion advice, help along the step of the way. We're there for all of our authors, and we're this hybrid. We do have a fee for ISBN processing, but that's it. That's all we charge. And you get continuous advertising, marketing. We have a website and where you can find all of our authors and their books. And, we have a catalog out now with all of our authors in it. We have a large social media presence, across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all over the place, so we can really get the word out about our authors. And because we are a co-op, we all work together in marketing and promoting each other's books, and we support each other. And it's a really nice home environment as opposed to a more distant house.
Right. It sounds very nice. Say one of our listeners has a book that's finished. How do they reach out and contact you? And is there a certain process that they need to do it? Like, what's the best way to do that? You
can visit our website at www.indiesunited.net. And at the bottom of every page, there's a contact link, or they can contact me directly at indiesunitedpublishing@gmail.com. Either way, it'll get right to me. Basically, because of the way we are structured, we don't have a limit on how many authors we can publish in a year. We can publish, if 5,000 people contacted me, please not today. Not all at once, but over the next month or two, 5,000 would be great. If that's how many I have, that's how many we can publish, because we don't have limitations. We don't have, we don't store the books. We don't, we're not printing the books. So, we have actually a lot more flexibility than a standard traditional house. Basically, as long as you have written a good book, that's all we care about. We want it to be edited, obviously. We do check all manuscripts for grammatical and spelling errors, and all of our books have to meet basic editing standards. As a general rule, any book that has 10 or more reviews that are 4 stars or above get automatic admission, because we feel that if you've actually managed to convince 10 whole people to take time out of their busy day to write something nice about you, you've obviously impressed them. And we all know, if you're an author out there, we all know getting 10 reviews, how hard that is.
Mm-hmm. So with the manuscript, if someone turns in 10 reviews, they're automatically in.
Yeah. Now I will go through and I'll look through, do a general, look through it. but it doesn't have to go through the whole standard process that we have, because if you're a brand new author or you don't have those 10 reviews, we have a group of people, we have readers that will go through, and they will all go through, we'll read your book, and then we'll get together at the end of it and, make our determination based on, how it's written. And generally we're all pretty much on board on, if it's admissible or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if for some reason we were to reject your book, we said, there was too many spelling errors, it was distracting, or this was wrong with it, or whatever, we will give you a very specific list of things that need to be addressed.
Oh, that's nice.
And if you do those things, you can then resubmit your book to us. And as long as you have done as we've asked, you're in. So it's not like a one and done kind of thing, but we'll give you a chance to do it again.
What are the most common mistakes that you do see?
The word that.
Oh, really?
Just using it too frequently.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, I'm guilty of it. I have to, when I write, I have to go back through and tell my, I tell my, my find,
Mm-hmm.
to look for that word.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it'll pull up every time. And as soon as you see like it highlighted 40 times on a page, you go, God, how did I do that?
How did I do that? Yeah.
When I was trying not to do that.
Exactly. And it's one of those common filler words that, so it's weird. But almost everyone does it. And it's also something that we're not aware that we're doing. So yeah, I know that sounds really odd, but that's one of those common mistakes. And I usually end up having to tell an author, if they haven't taken it to a professional editor, you need to take the 5,000, that
Mm-hmm.
out of the document. So yeah, it sounds strange, but there it is.
That was good.
No matter where you are in your writing process, we have a wonderful resource for you.
It's called Scribophile, and you can find it at scribophile.com.
So what is Scribophile? It is a place where you can post your writing and get detailed, insightful feedback from other writers on how to improve it. You can also chat and discuss with other writers around the world to see what they have to say about your work. We all know that networking is very important, and you'll be meeting like-minded writers.
And there's even fun writing contests where you can win great prizes. And you can educate yourself on the finer points on the craft of writing. There's a writing academy and a writer's blog. No matter your writing style or genre, there's a place for you on Scribophile.
The nice thing about Scribophile is that they give you detailed instructions on how their community works. You might feel overwhelmed with the writing process, but you're not going to feel overwhelmed by joining this community.
So if you're looking for beta readers or some critique of your work, check out Scribophile at scribophile.com. It's scribophile.com. Scribophile.com.
Well, how did you get the word out that you started the Indies United Publishing House?
To begin with, when I first started this, I teamed up with Jenny Rosenblum, who is an editor, and she lives in Texas, and she's been working with indie authors for about 10 years. And she was kind of the person that I really started snowballing this idea with, saying, someone needs to do something. And then I went, maybe I should do something because somebody wasn't stepping up. And so we kind of, so I kind of came up with this whole business plan, and I presented it to her, and I said, what do you think? I said, you've worked with a lot of, indies. How do you think they would respond? And she thought, she started to run it by her authors, and I started to run it, past authors that I had made friends with, and we were all in agreement. This is a good idea.
Great.
So we get about, 2 to 4 new authors in every month, but it's starting to, I guess, snowball at this point, because unlike most traditional houses, my authors actually like me.
Uh-huh.
So
you can see why.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
They really, and that sounds odd, but traditional houses are ruthless. They are not there for the author. They are there to make profit. They're willing to use the author to make the profit. Mm-hmm. And they will give an author just enough money to not make them scream. But it's not about them. It's about their bottom line. At Indies United, that's completely the other way around. our focus is on our authors. We want to see them do well. We want to help them. We want to steady them, especially if they're new authors, so we're really there for them, because this really started not for the purpose of profit. It started because I was upset with how badly indie authors have been treated. There's a stigma attached to them of them being failed authors, when really it's not them. It's the market. It's the way publishing houses are set up. They're set up to reject 99% of all books. Mm-hmm. So you have to be something that they're looking for. You can even be an excellent author that they would have 2 years ago had taken because of where their focus was, but because it shifted, would not take you now. So it's really a misnomer to think that an indie author is, is a failed author. They're not. It's just there's these limitations that publishing houses have. So I wanted to give all these indie authors a platform that they could stand firm on and get out of that indie category, that get away from that stigma, and be able to offer them a lot of the advantages, to being with a house, such as, having our imprint and using our ISBN, so they're not using the free ones, and, again, being put back in that category. We've been admitted to the Library of Congress, so all of our authors going forward, will have their books in the Library of Congress. Great. We have 3 of them. We have 3 of them upcoming that are going in there, and our previously published books, we're working on getting them admitted, which is a whole different process. But anyway, that's a whole thing.
Well, Lisa, I just want to ask you something about what you just mentioned and not using a free ISBN number. Can you explain that?
Free ISBNs are bought in bulk by places like Amazon, Smashwords, so even Drafted Digital. When people see the book listed, they are listed as the publisher of record, not the author, but the whoever has bought that ISBN. If you get your ISBN through Amazon, that puts Amazon as the publisher, and that gives them the rights to, be the publisher. The problem with that is instead of having a unifying ISBN for each of your books, you now have a dozen ISBNs for your books across a variety of formats. So if you publish through Amazon and use their ISBNs for a paperback, you can't take that ISBN and take it over to Barnes and Noble. You can't. Yeah. So your paper book now has 2 ISBNs. And then if you go someplace else, now it has 3 ISBNs for paperback, which means it gets very confusing for, places like bookstores and libraries, and even school districts, if they're interested in something that you've written, to purchase your book, because now there's not one ISBN, there's dozens. When places like school districts, universities, bookstores, libraries say, oh, well, I might add your book, then they go, from where? There's 14 copies, of the exact same book all across the spectrum, and there's nothing unifying them because each place puts a different ISBN on it. So it gets really bad. And whereas when you get your ISBNs from us, use our imprint, so it doesn't matter how many different places you use for distribution for your paperback, it has one ISBN, period.
Great.
And then we also get Library of Congress control numbers, and that's one unifying control number for every book you have. And on average, to get into the Library of Congress, it's not a real difficult process, but it's one of those that it's unless you are a publisher and you have multiple authors under you, it's difficult to get into. So it's something else that we offer authors, and then you get into their database, which is really nice for, especially for authors that up to this point had been indie, published.
Mm-hmm. So is there any issue with being an indie publisher and having your own ISBN number when you go to sell it on Amazon? Are they cool with that?
Oh, yeah. And again, I have that packet that it'll walk you through everything. And if you're reprinting one, getting a second edition with us, I even walk you through the steps on how not to lose your Amazon reviews.
Oh,
wonderful.
Wow. It sounds great. Think of the time. Think of the time you'll save. I have enough time.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have enough time to cook dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
With a crock pot.
Well, if you're going to use a crock pot, you don't want 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Pressure cooker, maybe.
So, Lisa, tell us a little bit about your book cover.
If you look at my book, I'd Rather Starve Than Cook, you're going to see a picture, and that is really me in my best friend's kitchen. And those are our kids and our grandkids standing behind me who are literally taking food out of the cabinets. I'm here to tell you, the kids had a lot of fun because at first they're like, "Are you sure?" So they're grabbing stuff out, and that's how that picture came to be. Is we just set it up with the kids behind me and me making the face that I always make when I want to, when someone asks me to cook and I don't want to. No! It's a look on my face.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, that is very
Isn't
funny.
that an amazing picture?
It
Yeah.
is, yes. Well, Lisa, what kind of advice do you have for authors who are writing a book now? Like, what would be the best advice you could give somebody?
Oh, get a good editor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. Just get a good editor. That's honestly the best advice I can give a new author. When you write your own book, it is hard to see your own mistakes. Like I said, I have to use, I use the fine bar in Word to find all the that's.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, though, I'm blind to them until I actually highlight them. So we're often blind to our own mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
You need a fresh eye to really help you get your book together and get something that will really resonate with your readers. Because if you have too many mistakes, if you get too windy in certain spots, or you start to stutter, I guess, in your writing, it tends to put authors off. So if you really want to start getting that author or that reader base, you need to have a good editing,
Mm-hmm.
of your books, because it doesn't matter how much time you have personally put into it. If it's not something that people can read enjoyably, then you probably are not going to get return buyers to buy your next book. So it's really important to have, something that really grabs a person's attention and they're not looking at it going, "My God, they keep misspelling this one word. Why do they do that?"
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, Lisa, it's been wonderful talking to you, and we wish you the best of luck. And thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Oh, no problem.
So with that, Matt,
I suggest you tell your friends to subscribe to the Author Inside You podcast. And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.